Employees have already boarded up the area, but you can still see chunks of wood and a little bit of debris from where this pole behind me was knocked down. Luckily, no one was hurt, but employees have told me that they have quite a big mess to clean up on the inside. But here's what happened. Coming out and finding his lawn looking like this was very common. Right behind these white doors, there is still a line of voters waiting for their turn. We followed the signs that say vote no. They led us to this neighborhood. 200 Fort Hood soldiers made it back home from Iraq. They're saying luckily this fire wasn't as bad as it was earlier this morning. 20 or so firefighters were out here, and that's when the case got much bigger. In fact, council will need at least a 3/4 vote in order for the permit on the facility to be passed. Coming up at 10, we will have their final decision. Live in Waco, Danielle Skinner, News Channel 25.
Danielle, the family plans on pressing charges against that officer.
The young man's family and an Austin civil rights group are taking this to court and protesting, Ann, in hopes that they get the justice they want for Terry Cox. Tonight, dozens of loved ones gathered for hours for Terry Ray Cox.
It is unjustifiable, and we need justice for Terry.
The family is seeking answers for a shooting that took the life of one of their own.
That was my best friend. Like, I talk to him about anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, now I ain't got nobody to talk to.
Back in December of last year, Officer Gary Smith pulled Cox over for an expired tag. Temple police say Cox drove off with Officer Smith's arm stuck in the door. Smith fired shots into his black SUV before it crashed here. Cox suffered a gunshot wound in the head and died a week later, leaving a daughter, wife, siblings, and a broken-hearted mother behind.
My son, my son, my son. They said they were going to murder him.
Patricia Otis says Officer Smith threatened her son's life, which is why he sped away. Officer Smith was put on paid administrative leave while the Texas Rangers investigated. A grand jury looked at dashcam video of the incident and no-billed the officer, deciding there wasn't enough evidence for an indictment. Now the Royal Society of Civil Rights, a nonprofit group from Austin, is helping the family press charges.
The public needs to understand this is deeper than what they are actually seeing or reading in the papers or seeing on the news.
Officer went up to the car, he was calling him all kinds of N-words and told him that he'll never amount to nothing.
With a team of lawyers, the family wants to pursue criminal and civil charges against police.
We're not going to settle for this. We're going to stand up and fight back against it, whatever it takes.
Danielle Skinner, News Channel 25. The search is on in Fort Myers, Florida. Police say a man was shot to death in this small parking lot, and the shooter is still on the loose. It happened at the Edison Mall Friday night before 9 o'clock. Witnesses say the suspects were in a gray car and came up behind the victim and started shooting. Police say there were more than 100 shell casings at the scene. There was another man with the victim, but he was not hurt. 5 people are dead after a shooting at a home in Illinois. Last night in the small town of Elmington, 30-year-old Sarah McMean started shooting. A man and 3 children, including a baby, died in the attack. Then McMean turned the gun on herself. A neighbor described seeing McMean outside the home hovering over her baby. Then when she asked if everything was all right, McMean said yes and fired at the child. A military community is upset after a group demanded they take down holiday decorations at the base. The display at the California Air Force Base includes both Hanukkah and Christmas displays like a menorah and a nativity scene. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation wants the display to come down. They say it's government endorsing religion, but people around the base say otherwise.
I agree with them. I think it should stay. I think everyone has the freedom of speech.
People coming in, the war is over. People want to see good things and good cheer. Why would you move it for what?
A military judge recently ruled that the displays do not violate the Constitution and they will stay up. But meanwhile, folks in the east town of Athens are fighting for their nativity scene. A Wisconsin atheist group wants the scene in front of the Henderson County Courthouse to come down. On Saturday, thousands turned out to voice their opinions about that request. Well, the answer they got was no.
Our fight, our relentlessness, and our courage, everything is bigger in Texas.
Never expected God to send a message from Athens, but that's what he's doing. He's sending a message.
A county judge recently ruled that the display doesn't violate the Constitution, even though the atheist group says it's government-sponsored religion. Take a look at this video near Los Angeles in the city of Santa Ana, where a huge sign blew on top of some cars. Thankfully, no one was hurt. High winds also blew over a lot of trees and power lines in the area Friday. Well, next on the Texas Report, protests escalate in Russia as more people are asking for the ousting of their prime minister. And Cuba releases a hefty amount of inmates right before the Pope visits the Caribbean island, but an American political prisoner doesn't make that list. This Army sergeant is pretty riled up.
I will fight this case until I can no longer fight this case. I will do whatever it takes.
Sergeant Richard Corder plans on hitting BBG even harder this time. The lawsuit now involves more soldiers. He wants his money back, and he's done his math.
Knowingly rip off soldiers like that when you're charging $41 for 4 seconds, that averages out to $615 a minute, and that is unacceptable.
Corder says the company didn't even show what they charge on the actual payphone. He didn't even know about the fees until a big fat bill ended up in his mailbox.
We defend these people. We risk our lives on a daily basis, and they're going to rip us off. Why?
Well, I wanted some answers too. So I called the phone company, got receptionist after receptionist, and still no one would comment.
I'm not the only victim here. All U.S. forces, all armed forces are victims of this, and it's not right for a company to do that to us.
And that's when the case got much bigger. In fact, Sergeant Corder says it's not about the money, it's about soldiers being taken advantage of.
Before the lawsuit, Corder's lawyers tried to work things out with BBG, but had no luck.
We're asking, take care of our troops. Don't swindle them. We have sent letters demanding that they stop, demanding that they leave our troops alone. They've refused, thus we have to drag them into court.
But until his moment in court, Corder hopes even more soldiers will join the class action suit. Now, I spoke with one of Corder's attorneys, John Mattis, today, and he says he is aware the company will have their high-powered lawyers, but he claims Corder and other soldiers have a moral right on their side. Danielle Skinner, News Channel 25.